The year is 2014, and me being the little obnoxious child I was, watched one of the most successful animated movies of the 21st century, that created its own genre and saved a Danish toy manufacturer from bankruptcy.
I declare bankruptcy!
But of course, being a little neurodivergent child that liked the silly little Lego man say the funny line, I would obviously like this fella. It's essentially just Charlie Day playing an autistic astronaut.
You're not gonna say no?
The Lego Movie was a cultural touchstone for my generation, but the more I grew to love it, the more I discovered, until I find myself making a video on one of Lego's best themes ever made. In 1978, long before my time, and likely yours too, Lego had created the minifigure, a small posable character that was a portmanteau of the word miniature and figure. Who would have guessed? But Lego needed a way to introduce them, and so they decided to come up with a sort of history-based idea, which is the best school subject, by the way, don't at me. This idea would include what I like to call the big three: castle, town, and the subject of today's video being Lego space. I think it all comes down to masterful colour blocking, implemented with the sets, mainly remembered by the Spaceman minifigure, which has become iconic to Lego as a brand. Just look at all the people who try and collect every colour of these guys. And while I think it's particularly nice to get a dark turquoise spaceman, and I do like getting them in different colours, I like it when the colour has a rank or role. For example, the red astronauts are pilots. Delegating certain colours and aesthetics to them just makes it more realistic. But this isn't why I like this theme. While people mostly get into Lego Star Wars, mostly for the figures, and now someone is going to be in the comments defending the builds even though Star Wars fans aren't sophisticated enough for Lego Space. Whereas Star Wars fans are obsessed with clone troopers, Lego Space fans like it for everything else. One thing about this I really enjoy is the atmosphere. Do you get the joke? It honestly haunts me a little bit. The dark background and fairly muted, almost dank foreground gives off a very existential mood, which some of the later sets in the line promptly dropped for the more campy action-adventure deal, which isn't as strong for me, really capturing the space discovery vibe that came with early speculative space exploration during the moon landing. That were essentially just saying, we are but a small speck in the vast unexplored cosmos. But all we learned from that was size does matter, and black holes are very, very scary. The sets themselves invoke this philosophy of size matters not really well with the ships. And because of the difference in size, if you couldn't afford the larger set, you could just get the smaller one with basically the same details, increased or decreased depending on the set. Very similar to the Jango Fett Slave one from earlier this year, but much more downplayed, probably because people think Lego would be lazy if they did it nowadays, which makes sense. More on this later in the video. Anyway, the builds are really solid. Not literally, it was the 70s. Lego didn't have the same durability standards as they do now, but back then people were encouraged to take apart their sets and turn them into something else, which is more of a side thing today, as sets are much harder to take apart, and adults don't usually take apart their sets and build them into something else. It's a very foreign concept, unless they're unrebrickable. Another thing I've noticed is these ships don't have many weapons. After all, you don't see NASA brandishing guns on their space stations. This was to coincide with LEGO's firm moral beliefs, which as a man of philosophy, I was willing to listen to. Due to LEGO being, for kids, the company wasn't willing to compromise until, Dino Attack 2010. Sorry, Dino Attack. You flipping crazy Yanks and your guns. LEGO probably thought it was fine in America because Uncle Joe and Bradley in the Carney department was already showing his grandson how to properly trigger his Desert Eagle. This stance on violence in their toys is why the first castle was yellow instead of grey, because kids would build tanks. I honestly think it's scarier that the walls are yellow. That's probably the reason this line stands out to me. The overall aesthetic and vibe was very interesting, and sure, while later Futuron astronauts came into contact with the villainous forces of Blacktron, who could honestly chew up their own video. But in the original line, there was no real antagonist, unless you made up your own story where the astronauts are evil, but that is why I like it so much. It wasn't like today's themes with plot or combat in a box. It was just a few colourful astronauts sailing the stars. There was no overarching story. Oh wait! So very recently it was discovered by a good few people on the internet that there was lore! This book adds some very interesting tidbits on the world and some amazing cells too, which was all filmed by Duckbricks, link in the description. This book was actually commissioned by LEGO, so that's probably why things were a little bit different and the figures were a bit more flowy looking than they usually are. Looking very Blacktron there, guys. Which was literally just a bunch of guys in black spacesuits. This guy literally has a number 1 right on his helmet. Kazakh. Really rolls off the tongue there, doesn't it? I picture him sounding a bit like Starscream though. I'm stupid! It just makes sense. And his fleet looks a little familiar. This thing is just cool. They literally have a HAL 9000. Its name is MAGS, which stands for Mechanical Automatic Grade. She probably has a Cockney accent if I was to make a guess.
Isn't it to realise we don't have nuclear weapons these days?
Speaking of robots, there's this guy called Keko, who is basically discount R2-D2. But what I like is he comes from a planet of robots. Go figure. That is a jungle world. It's a really interesting anticlimax, as you'd usually expect the obligatory android world to be some biomechanical industrialized world. But yeah, I like it. There's honestly so much stuff to go through, I'm just picking the highlights. I'd recommend Jang's video on the subject, as he covers all the bases and also adds his own voices to it.
Came from my control panel? Me? Make a mistake? Impossible!
While I really like this book and the lore that comes with it, I much prefer the colder, more isolating vibe of the main theme, and many people out there probably agree with me, as it has remained nostalgic for older fans and a pillar of legacy in the eyes of the youth, which is probably why we see sporadic sets references and more, the most important of which being a remake of the LL928 Galaxy Explorer. But like I mentioned earlier, with size and price brackets, this set is a 3-in-1 featuring those other ships, essentially giving you a small wave under one set, similar to what Creator 3-in-1 did with Pirates and Castle. This yearly practice of releasing these 2-in-1 remakes of these old sets will probably hold us over, and I certainly don't want any more of the classic sets remade. I think they've done just about everything they could with that aesthetic. Though there is some brilliant mocks out there that take advantage of LEGO's newer pieces and make a more smoother transition. I would like to see maybe some Futuron stuff, or heck, just make a new line inspired by the exploration and isolation energy that these old sets instilled in me. And one thing I've failed to mention is anemoia, described as having nostalgia for something you've never seen before. Heck, my parents weren't even fetuses when this theme first launched, which probably confuses some of you who've stuck by my channel for a while, seeing me ramble about old sets from the 70s, as my recent videos are all LEGO Star Wars, which can get very, very monotonous after a while. So that's why I've been pivoting gears a little bit. I am a general LEGO channel. Just look at my stuff I put out recently. A few Star Wars reviews, and then my GOAT video, which is one of my lowest viewed videos, even though it's one of my favorites. A lot of younger people than me are coming into this channel to see me talk about one thing, even though, in my opinion, you should be watching someone on this platform for their personality. I'm going to talk about this a bit more in a future video, but what I'm trying to get at is you should make the videos you want to make, and if people don't watch it, that doesn't matter. As long as you are getting your point across and people can see where you're coming from, that is all that matters to me. See you in the next one.